I'm going to find the vertical, horizontal, and oblique asymptotes, if there are any, for the following rational function. So our function is going to be 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 over 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. We're going to start by finding the vertical asymptote. Now a vertical asymptote is, the easiest way to think about it is whatever the domain of my function is going to exclude, that's going to be my vertical asymptote. Because an asymptote is just a limit that your x or y values will tend to but never reach, it would make sense to think that whatever my domain excludes is going to be an x or y value that my function never reaches. So therefore, to find the vertical asymptote of this function, I'm going to find the domain of this function first and see what values are excluded. So to find the domain of this function, I see that the denominator is a quadratic, and since it is a fraction, I want to avoid division by 0. So we have a quadratic here. We're going to write that out separately as 3x squared minus 10x minus 8 equals to 0. Now I'm going to look to see if I can factor this and solve. So in order to factor out this quadratic where the coefficient of x squared is higher than 1, there are two ways in which you can approach this. You can either do trial and error and guess what the factors are, and you'll be looking for two numbers as factors that add up to give you minus 10 and multiply to give you minus 8. I'm going to do something a little more calculated where I take the plus 3 and then multiply it by minus 8 to give me minus 24, and this is minus 10. And now I'm going to look for two numbers that add to give me minus 10x, but multiply to give me minus 24. So I think they're going to be minus 12 and plus 2. And now I'm going to rewrite this equation here where I have the minus 12x and then plus 2x and minus 8 equals 0. And now you might notice that there are going to be common terms which can be factored out of each of these groups. We call this factor by grouping. So for example, I'm going to take the minus 3x out of these two terms, and then I'm going to be left with x minus 4. Over here I can take a 2 out of each of these terms, so I'm going to have plus 2 and then x minus 4 equals 0. And if you've done this correctly, then you should notice that these two factors in here are equal to each other. They are exactly the same as each other. And this means that we can go ahead and cancel one of them out. So our two factors are going to be 3x plus 2 and x minus 4 equals to 0. You can go ahead and multiply these out and they should give you back this answer. So at this point we can use the zero product rule, meaning that either of these factors have to be equal to 0 for the entire equation to be equal to 0. So either 3x plus 2 is 0 or x minus 4 is 0. And then you want to solve each of these separately. So for this one it's going to be 3x plus minus 2, therefore x is minus 2 over 3. Over here we move the minus 4 to the right side, so we have x equals 4. Now that we've successfully factored the denominator, let's go ahead and rewrite that over here. So we've got the numerator is the same as it was. And here we've got 3x plus 2 minus 4. If I were finished with this question right now, then I would say that my vertical asymptotes are at x equals minus 2 over 3 and x equals 4. However, you want to be extremely careful, as a vertical asymptote will be the x values where the domain does not reach, except for when you can cancel out any of these factors because an existing identical factor is in the numerator. And what that basically means is that I have to, in order to be careful and not make mistakes here, I have to factor out this numerator as well. So we're going to have 2x squared minus 7, x minus 4, and we're going to try and factor this out. Now, once again, I'm going to use this technique over here where I take 2 and I multiply it by minus 4, minus 8, and minus 7 here. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give minus 8 and add to give minus 7. I think they're going to be minus 8 and plus 1. So I'm going to rewrite this entire equation with the minus 8 and the plus 1. X minus 4. And I'm going to factor it by grouping. Here we can take out a 2x from each of these terms. We're left with x minus 4. And here we can't take anything out, so we just take out a minus 1. And the inside of the bracket remains the same. And you'll notice once again that these two factors are identical, so we can cancel one of them out. And our final two factors are going to be 2x plus 1 and x minus 4. So now let's go ahead and rewrite this fraction with the factors that we now know. So the numerator is going to be 2x plus 1 over x minus 4 over 3x plus 2 and x minus 4. Now hopefully you notice that x minus 4 exists in both the numerator and denominator, which means that I cancel them out and we're left with 2x plus 1 over 3x plus 2. Now what that means for our final answer is that the x equals 4 is not going to be a vertical asymptote because we've successfully canceled the factor x minus 4 out. Meaning that our final answer for the vertical asymptote is going to be x equals minus 2 over 3. Hopefully you found my guidance for today's question useful, and if you have any of your own questions, leave them in the comments and I will get to them. See you next time.